I am Mary Magdalene. I loved Jesus as my Lord and teacher. I am one of his many disciples. I was devastated when he was crucified. I could not stop crying. I followed the men when they laid his body in the tomb. My mind was numb with grief. Imagine my shock and horror when I returned to the tomb with some of the other disciples 3 days later, just as dawn was breaking, in order to prepare his body properly with oils and perfumes, only to find the tomb empty. Then I just shook with fear when an angel appeared in the tomb. He spoke to us and told us that Jesus had risen. I was totally perplexed. What did this mean? How could this be? I just could not believe it. I had watched him die on the cross. I had seen his lifeless body. Who could have done this? I fled from the tomb in a dreadful state. The other women went on ahead, but I lingered. My mind was racing. Then in the morning mist I saw a man whom I thought must be the gardener. I called to him to ask if he knew what had happened to Jesus. As he came closer to me, he said my name. It was Jesus! I fell at his feet and wept with overflowing joy. I had doubted the angel's message, but now I know it's true. He is risen.
I am Peter. I am one of Jesus' inner circle of disciples. I had been taught by him for 3 years. I had witnessed amazing things. He was my closest friend. I had given up everything to follow him. However, I knew him to be my Lord and God, as well as my friend, and it was such a privilege to be chosen by him. Then my heart was broken. I was consumed with such guilt and remorse it was unbearable. I had declared to Jesus that I would go anywhere with him, even unto death. However, when he was arrested, to my utmost shame, I fled with all his other disciples and left him alone. I followed him at a distance and watched as he was dragged off to face an illegal and hostile trial. When questioned myself by servants if I was a follower of Jesus, I can hardly bear to say it, but I denied knowing him 3 times. Then a cockerel crowed and Jesus looked at me. I will never forget that look. He had told me I would deny him 3 times, and I had adamantly declared to him that I would not do so, but I had. I fled in tears. I was inconsolable. As I watched him dragged through the streets to his death, his body beaten and tortured, as I saw him fight for every breath, cruelly killed on a cross, I longed so much for his forgiveness, but I dare not look him in the eye. I heard him call out to God the Father, "Forgive them, for they know not what they have done." How I longed that that prayer included me and that I could be forgiven. Then, to my utmost amazement, on the 3rd day after his death, some of his women followers burst into the room where we were all gathered with the astonishing news that the body of Jesus had gone, and an angel had told them that he was risen. Mary Magdalene also told us that she had seen and spoken with Jesus, and that he would meet with us shortly. How could this be? I had to see for myself. I rushed from the room to the tomb where I knew his body had been laid. My fellow disciple John ran with me. We arrived breathless at the tomb and received the same message from an angel. My mind was in a turmoil. I so wanted to see Jesus again. Could this be true? I so needed his forgiveness. How would he greet me if and when we met again? I lived in a state of dread and hope, a mixture of fear and joy. One thing is certain, I would never deny him again. But could it really be true? Could he really be alive again? Then, such overwhelming joy. Later that day, Jesus came to join us in the room where I was gathered with some of his other disciples, and met us many times over the next few weeks. He smiled at us and talked with us. I felt such a wave of gratitude, amazement, and indescribable love and peace in his presence. I knew that I was forgiven. I had been perplexed by the angel's message, but now I know it is true. He is risen.
I am Thomas. I am one of Jesus' inner circle of disciples. I had followed him for 3 years and been taught by him. Like Peter, I had witnessed many amazing things. I had also fled the night that Jesus had been arrested. I had been in a state of despair and grief over his death. My hopes and dreams appeared to have been shattered. I did not know what to do. Had the last 3 years been in vain? What was to happen now? I needed time to myself, to think, to reflect. I had not been with the other disciples when Jesus had appeared to them. I heard Mary Magdalene's account of meeting a risen Jesus. I could not believe it, unless I saw for myself and felt the holes in his hands where they had cruelly hammered in the large nails that held him to the cross, and felt the hole in his side where he was pierced by a spear. How could I believe it was true? I was full of doubt. I needed hard facts, not hearsay. Then one day, when I was meeting to pray with my fellow disciples, suddenly there was Jesus. Was this an apparition? A trick of my grief-stricken mind? No. Jesus spoke directly to me and told me to feel his hands and his side. I just stared in amazement and fell to my knees before my Lord and God. I had not believed the reports of others, but now I know it is true. He is risen.
I am Cleopas, a disciple of Jesus. I had witnessed the cruel death of Jesus and all that had happened in Jerusalem over the previous few days. I was in a state of shock and disbelief. I could not understand it. What would happen to us now? 3 days after his death, I was with the other disciples when the women who had gone to his tomb came and told us about a message from an angel, and Mary Magdalene gave her account of seeing and talking with the risen Jesus. It was astonishing. Could it be true? That afternoon, a fellow disciple and I decided to go to our homes in Emmaus, a village which was a couple of hours' walk from Jerusalem. As we walked and talked about the events of the last few days, a stranger joined us. This was not out of the ordinary, as the roads were dangerous for lone travellers. He did not appear to know what had happened in Jerusalem that weekend, so we told him. He then began to talk to us about all that the books of the law and the prophets had said about the Messiah and how this had come true over that weekend with the death of Jesus. We were spellbound by this, and on reaching our homes, we asked him to have supper with us and stay the night. As he reclined at the table, he broke bread, blessed it and gave it to us, just as Jesus had done at the Passover meal. Our eyes were opened and we saw that it was Jesus, and then he vanished. We were all struck with amazement. We quickly put on our outer garments and rushed back to Jerusalem to meet with the disciples and tell them the astonishing and exciting news of our encounter with Jesus. I had doubted the report of the woman, but now I know it is true. He is risen.